Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to let you know how much I appreciate each and every one of you joining us on our show every week. If you missed our last interview, you can hear it and all of our episodes at entertalkmedia.com, the new website, entertalkmedia.com/making it, or download our app and take us with you. And you can also hear us on iTunes under podcast. So often I get asked questions about the creative process, so I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat. I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they've influenced the music that has shaped our lives, and I guarantee you're going to love this one. This is kind of a cool episode for me because I wanted to shine the light on one of the companies that I have been endorsing as a guitar player and recording artist for many years, at least 20 years, probably closer to 30. I'd have to actually look at my notes, but it's really, I really believe in artist relationships, and it's one of the things that we're going to speak about today. And the key word is relationships, not artist. It's developing relationships with companies and helping each other along the way, and for not just products, but support, information, guidance in how to get the best sound that you can possibly get on your instrument. So the show today is going to be focused on this wonderful company called Daddario and my guest, Rob Cunningham, who works for Daddario. So let me tell you a little bit about both. Daddario is a manufacturer of musical instrument strings and accessories for fretted and orchestral instruments. It is a family-owned business that is one of the largest string manufacturers in the world. Originally located in Lynbrook, New York, the business continued to expand, and in 1994 moved to its current facility in Farmingdale, New York, with its European headquarters being located in Newcastle, England. The company is still owned and operated by the Daddario family, with 13 family members among the 1,000 employees of the company. Daddario was founded 45 years ago. Daddario was founded 45 years ago in 1974. My guest today, Rob Cunningham, has been working with them for 23 of those years. Rob earned a degree in audio recording technology and marketing, had a record deal and a grunge hit in the 80s, performed 75 to 80 shows a year as a performing musician. He currently holds the position of brand manager at Daddario & Company. Rob Cunningham, welcome to Making It.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And, there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I want everybody to get to know about the company, but also about you, because in some ways they're one and the same. You work for a company that is family owned, and I'm sure that changes the dynamics or the mission.
Oh, it definitely does.
Yeah. In what way?
I think it's just more interesting. You actually feel like you're really kind of a part of something. Even though I'm not a Daddario, I feel like a family member.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons I've been here so long is I just want to see what happens next. So much has happened in the 23 years I've been here. I just want to keep seeing where this goes.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I'm like a distant cousin to the family because I've been using your products for so many years.
You've been with us long enough.
Yeah, that's true. One of the
you're part of the family.
Oh, well, thank you. I actually do feel like it. and you guys have, I'm very selective about the companies that I work with, and you guys are pretty much a one-stop for me. And without making this a plug, an entire commercial for Daddario, I do want to say that part of the reason that I work with you guys is because of the quality of the products. It's the best in the world, I think. But also, you guys are kind of a one-stop for me, because I use your strings on electric, acoustic, baritone, high string, classical, banjo, dobro, ukulele, cavaquinho. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, you make strings for instruments that I haven't even learned how to play yet. And, I think about when I see them in the catalog, it's like, I need to get a quattro, figure that one out, because you have the strings for it.
It's pretty wide breadth. I mean, if it had strings on it, we pretty much, if the instrument has strings, we pretty much make them. So absolutely. And then, of course, and we'll talk about this as we get further into our conversation, but accessories, straps, beautiful straps, capos, tuners, everything, cables, etc. So I read a quote on the website, and it really caught my attention because it's one of the first things that jumps out on the homepage, and it says, "It's not just what we make, but where we make it. Committed to manufacturing in the USA." I found it really very cool, but also interesting for a company that's run by a family that immigrated to America from Italy. Why is American made so important to the company? It's just the quality of it, and being proud of what you're making, and not wanting to farm that out to someplace else, or it's really a pride thing, and they really take it serious. I mean, the one thing that we never give up on is the quality of the product that we put out, and we take it really, really serious here. It's just we never want to cheapen our product in any way, and we always want to put out the top quality that we can. And that's why we're always looking for new ways to do things, better ways to do things, new materials to use. We kind of never sat back and said, what, our product's pretty good, let's just sell it. It's like we're always constantly, every single day, trying to make it even better. We're always looking for ways to do that,
including environmental packaging. To my knowledge, you were the first company in strings to do that.
We were the first ones to do that, and Jim Daddario, the CEO, the owner, he is really into the environment, and not just in the packaging, but in the way we manufacture things. We try not to use chemicals that will harm the environment. Our packaging is printed with inks like soy inks and stuff like that. So it's not just the packaging. It goes throughout the entire company. We have recycle bins at everyone's desks. We started a string recycle program for people to do that. And, basically it all started one day. Jim was just doing a string change. And you remember the old way the strings were? You had the 6 envelopes and then the sleeve and then the plastic envelope, and that was your string set, And he was changing his strings one day, and when he was done, he kind of just looked down at the table at everything that was left afterwards. Right, and he was just kind of like, this is ridiculous that I'm now going to throw all this stuff out, and that's really what started it. He just kind of had an epiphany in that moment, and then he from that moment he just explored ways to get the packaging down to a bare minimum.
Well, and one of the other things I think is really wonderful and fascinating about the company is that you don't not only do you keep everything made in-house, but I mean you expand, like you do your own printing. You take control of your life and your the path that the company takes by not farming everything out. When you at some point you all decided you were going to become a printing company as well for packaging. And that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was all printed in house, and and again that speaks more to the quality control. Right. By having it in house, we're able to control it better. And the one thing that would drive anyone this company nuts is sometimes from a print run to a print run, the colors can change once in a while, and we have very distinct colors. Like we have that orange on our EXL 110s or the purple on our EXL 120s, and Jim just never wanted to go to a store and see that orange look different with different strings that sit next to each other on the shelf. He wants that color to be exactly the same every single time. So just by taking the printing into our own hands, we're able to do that. Where sometimes if you farm it out, especially if different places are printing your packaging, you have multiple places printing the same packaging, the coloring doesn't always come back the same.
Right. I learned that as an artist, putting my own records out and working with graphic designers and them explaining to me that sometimes you end up with the color not being what you had signed on for because there's leftover ink from the previous run of whatever album was being made or CD cover.
Right. They didn't clean the wells out and,
Exactly.
Yep, that happens.
So your title is brand manager or product manager. I've heard you call both, and I wanted to know why that title sometimes changes, and also can you define what your job actually is?
Yeah, it kind of changes day to day. Some people call it brand manager, some people call it product manager. I don't even know which one is official anymore, to be honest with you. But pretty much it's just the overseer of, the day-to-day running of the brand, and that could be from developing a product one day to, helping the sourcing department to source a product, or working with quality control on a product. You kind of have multiple hats, and it's interesting though, because every day is pretty much different. You don't know what you're walking into each day, so it's kind of cool that you're not doing the same exact repetitive motion every single day. Every day is kind of a challenge, and it's kind of fun.
Well, and also the fact that you are a working, playing musician, performing musician, and so they get feedback from you and some of the other artists that work at the company, as well as you've got a really open attitude about wanting to get feedback from some of your artists that endorse the company. So I remember being one of the first people to try your tuner pedal back when I was on tour with Kev Mo and Bonnie Raitt. And, we took them out on the road, and you had just put them out, and we got to give you really great feedback, about what it was like to use them at outdoor festivals versus inside. So, I think you're a really hands-on guy and working for a very hands-on company.
No, we love getting the artists involved because, they're the ones on the front lines, right?
Right.
Where it really matters. I play as well, but I'm not playing, to monstrous audiences. I'm doing, club gigs and stuff, where really maybe it's not so as important. If something goes wrong to me on stage, it's a lot different than someone going wrong on the stage of Madison Square Garden, right?
Yes.
So
and no.
Getting the artists
involved,
and
yeah.
it's right. It's a bigger pressure cooker.
Yeah.
So getting the artists involved and getting feedback, and they're the ones that are facing problems and need problems solved to make their life easier.
Right.
And that's where a lot of our innovation comes from. And I work mostly on the accessory side. So really, I am involved in the strings a lot, but my main focus is really just like the tuners, the cables, the capos, and all the accessories that go along.
Mm-hmm.
And we need that feedback. That feedback, we learn a ton from that. So
Right.
That's a really important part of the process. Because I'm just in a fishbowl here, So we got to get the products out into the world and really see what happens with them.
Absolutely. You've been working this job actually a little over 23 years. So as on a personal level, as a musician, what's it like having a job that has actually lasted longer than a few years?
That's a good question. You know what? For me, it's great because you know what? Yes, we would all love to be a famous musician, but that's not possible. It's a very small percentage of people that get to do that. Yeah, but to me, I just love it because I'm still in the industry. I'm still surrounded by I got guitars at my desk. I got I have a recording studio right across the hallway from me with a whole bunch of different amplifiers and everything. So I'm still doing what I love, and I'm still involved in the thing that I'm passionate about, which is music and guitar. And to me, it's the perfect gig. If I can't be on a stage performing for people, then this is the best fallback I could think of, actually.
And you have access to the in-house studio, to all of the 1,000 people that work there, get to record there if they need it for anything?
Yeah, so we have about 1,000 people working here on Long Island. Most of that is actually in production staff. They're actually making the strings or making the drum heads or making the actual product. And then there's a full office staff, of course, with sales, marketing, product management, and everything. And yeah, so we have a fully functional recording studio here. And sometimes that's for making a product video, doing a photo shoot. We do photo shoots in there, or it's just doing product testing where we can record a whole bunch of different string constructions or drum head constructions, record them all, and then later on listen to them all back subjectively, because it's a funny thing. If you put a guitar string on and listen to it, and then it takes a couple minutes to take that string off and put a different construction on and hear it again, it's really hard to compare it to the one that you played 10 minutes ago. Right. Subjectively, you really have to record it and then listen back later on and just listen to the sound and just focus on the sound. And then you can really make a wise decision, because usually the latest string you put on is the one that sounds best to you. It's just our brains, right? The way they work. Right. So that's a really important part of testing. It's just, recording all the sounds and then going back later and listening to it and see what's going on. But that's just one portion,
Yeah, that's great, because, I, as an artist, I benefit from that, because, I've always been able to ask you what's the difference sonically between this string and that string, and you pretty much always have an answer. And now I have a better understanding of why.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference, different materials that it's made out of. And, this family's been, guitar string making has been in this family for literally centuries. Nice. So throughout all that time, all the experimentation and all the innovation that happened, it's pretty amazing, actually.
It is. I've got a few more personal questions, and then we're going to get into the deep history of the Daddario family back in Italy. So you started your sales and marketing career as a guitar department manager at Sam Ash and had that position for 5 years. I'm curious, how did you make the decision to go into sales after you had gotten college degrees in both audio engineering and marketing, besides being a player? Were you married back then and having kids already?
Yeah, I really wanted to get into recording. I was really into recording and mixing. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, whether it's good or whether it's bad, I kind of just wasn't into, working at a studio for a couple of years and basically, not getting paid and putting in those hours. And, I kind of just wanted to, after college, just get a job where I can, start making a little money and then start paying off those college loans right away. Right. Okay. So I did go to a couple of studios, and I did work in a couple of studios right after college. But it's typical, and it's great for the people that hang in there and do it. But I basically started out just like interning, not getting paid, and just I was getting coffee and going on bagel runs, and barely getting in a room and touching a mixing board. So I was kind of like, maybe this isn't what I should be doing. Right. So I actually took the job at Sam Ash as a salesperson, just so I was like, I'll take this job. I can make some money, and then I can figure out what I'm going to do next. Right. So I kind of really just took the job as a stepping stone, just to kind of get some money coming in while I figure out what I wanted to do with my life.
Right. That makes sense. Well, it did kind of help you figure out what you wanted to do with your life. And
it did. And that was a fun job too, because again, I was around gear. I was talking to musicians all day. Mm-hmm. Doing retail is a little rough, because you're working weekends, you're working holidays, sure. And that part of the gig is a little tough to deal with at times. But I got to say, my time there was invaluable as far as learning about gear, mm-hmm. and just kind of immersing myself into becoming a gearhead,
Well, you describe yourself to me as and just on, when we were talking off the air, as a total guitar gearhead with way too many guitars, amps, and pedals, which made me laugh. Yeah. And I was wondering, how would you define the term "too many guitars"?
They're all over the house, and my wife. My wife will tell you this. She's, you can't pretty much walk into a room in the house and not see a guitar, and they're in closets, they're under beds, they're hanging on the wall. Right. and she's like, why do you need all these? And I'm like, well, they're cool. They inspire me. And she's like, well, you don't need a couple of guitars. I'm like, yeah, but you pick up a Telly and you play one way and it sounds a certain way. You pick up a Les Paul, you kind of play a little different. You pick up, every guitar kind of puts you in a mood, and I think it affects the way you play. So I just love having all different instruments around, just for different inspiration, different sonic abilities.
Me too, absolutely. When you were,
but she will definitely tell you I have too many guitars.
Yeah, well, she wouldn't be the first to say that. So,
or I need a bigger house. Either one.
Right, there you go. I have a musical question for you, because you were in an 80s, 90s hair band, and typical story, you got signed, you had a hit, you got dropped from the label, and you had a lot of fun along the way, like so many people.
Well, actually, I have to correct you. I never had a hit.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. You just had fun.
Saying is, we got signed because, I was doing the big hair thing and, whatever. We got signed, and then grunge hit. Mm-hmm. And pretty much, hair bands were dead in the water at that point. So as fast as we got signed, we got dropped. So
that's funny.
I have grunge,
it's funny
thanks
now.
for that.
I'm sure it wasn't funny then. And so, Rob, looking back at that time in your life, what was the most valuable or surprising lesson that you learned from being signed to a label and then being dropped?
You know what? I think it was just, things are going to happen and just keep rolling. Like we didn't get like too far down. We got signed, and then we were doing demos. And the one thing that was cool, we got put up at to record at the Hit Factory in New York, which was an awesome experience. And then there was another studio in Manhattan called Sigma Sound. I don't think it's there anymore. It was in the Ed Sullivan Theater building. So, they were like world-class recording studios. So I went from, recording in these dinky little studios, making demos for the band, and we were in like world-class places, So to me, I'm like, most musicians don't even get to record in a place like that. So the fact that I just got to record at the Hit Factory, that's very cool by me, and I'm fine with that, just to be able to say I did that, is awesome.
That's something to be really proud of.
Yeah, I mean, not many, as far as the amount of people that could say they played, Madison Square Garden, that, of course, more could say they recorded at the Hit Factory, but there's a lot of people that can't even say that, So it's just, something I got to do. It was a cool experience, and I'm proud just to say I did that much,
I have another question before we get into the Daddario story and history. You are married. You've got a beautiful wife, 2 really great kids, 2 great dogs, and that's a lot, with everything that you do, because you travel for trade shows and as a representative for Daddario. Besides working there, how do you balance family life with your career and practicing and staying on top of your playing for the 70 or 85 shows a year that you do with your band? And it's a little crazy, but it's funny because like when I think of my friends that aren't musicians, I'm kind of like, what do they do with their spare time? To me, it's just music is just something that you have to do, and I'll go home and after work I have dinner, hang out with my daughter. My son's older, and then we'll hang out after dinner for a little while, and then by the time everyone's getting ready to go to bed, then I go downstairs into my studio, and then I, either just play guitar for fun, or maybe I'll record something, or I'll just work on songs for the band for the next gig that we're doing. So I'm not really missing out on the family time. I make sure I get that in. But then once everyone kind of goes to bed, then I go downstairs, and then that's my time. So it all kind of balances out. And my wife is an artist too. She's like this really crazy hairstylist, but she does runways. She does Fashion Week in New York City. She travels a lot teaching. So she kind of gets the whole artist thing and the need to be creative because, she's the same way.
I'll come home and there'll be a mannequin head with hair all over the floor, and she'll be trying some new crazy technique. So she gets it. Even though it's a different industry, they're both creative. And she totally understands it and gets it.
That makes sense. That's great. Let's switch and talk about Daddario. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about the company is that it's not just a string. You are just not a string company and even accessories company. You have there's Daddario, which makes strings for pop, rock instruments, but also all the orchestral instruments. Evans Drumheads, Planet Waves for accessories, ProMark drumsticks. There's a Daddario Woodwind company that has reeds and mouthpieces. And, of course, there's the Daddario orchestral strings. Am I missing anything?
I think you got it off. Got it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you got everything. And then we have another company called Archives that does all the like manuscript paper and stuff like that, manuscript books.
I didn't even know about that. That's great. You also have a foundation that supports music programs. The Daddario Foundation.org is the website.
Yes, that is really important to the company. So that is a very large focus of the company, is giving back and providing instruments to schools that don't have access to them. And so we're always trying to give back to the community to keep music going.
The mission statement that I read on the website about the foundation is this: the Daddario Foundation is a nonprofit organization that identifies the highest quality, most impactful instrument instruction programs in communities of need and awards grants and product donations to assist their growth and development. We believe in the power of music to unlock creativity, boost self-confidence, and enhance academics. By making music education accessible, we can positively affect social change and foster better citizens of the world. That's so great. Thank you for everything that you and the company do to keep music alive and to make it accessible to people. It's really, really important to us. So we do, we donate, of course, just money to programs, but we also do instrument collections. And then we've even had a program here on Long Island. One of the schools, lost their music program. So we actually send buses to the school, and we bring the kids to the factory, and we set up a lesson plan for those kids. So a couple times a week, we have buses coming right after school, and they bring all the kids here, and we hire teachers, and the kids are getting their instructions here at the factory. That's so great. I'm such a believer in education, and mentoring as well. That's what the show is based on. So anything that we can do to help continue to promote that, we will. And I'm really I'm so thrilled that you guys do that.
It's really important to keep that going.
Absolutely. You also did something really cool that I didn't know about in March of this year with International Women's Day. Can you talk about that?
Well, sometimes I don't know if women actually feel that they get glossed over, that music is a man's world. I don't know if they feel that way, but we just want to make sure that they feel it's part of the community as anyone. Because think about all the amazing musicians that are women, and from how long ago? It's unbelievable, their contribution. So we want to spawn that as well and encourage that. And it shouldn't be looked at playing guitar as a guy's thing. Look at all the amazing girl guitar players now. We just want to keep that going and inspire women to pick up an instrument.
Yeah, composers. It's I've had a few pretty prominent women in the music industry speak to that on when they've been guests on this show, and sadly it is an issue, but having women out there rallying for other women to be in the arts, as well as companies like Daddario getting involved in supporting any kind of program to help kids, male, female, everything. It's needed. It really is needed. So
Absolutely.
You know,
like one of our most important, most popular endorsees now is, Nita Strauss. I mean,
mm-hmm.
look how many, girls she's inspiring. She's an unbelievable guitar player.
Yeah.
She's like really important. We're so happy to have her, be an endorsee for us. And it's great that she's she's an inspiration to all the girls that want to pick up a guitar.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Daddario family. And, I'm grabbing some quotes from your website because they really spoke to me. And one of them is, it's called The History of the Cordura. And basically I'll read, in the Italian province of Pescara, 200 people still reside within the jagged blocks of this mountainous landscape. In the middle of the town is the church. It is the church that has the oldest documents of the town. One document marks the birth of a child, Donato Daddario, in 1680. His occupation stated simply Cordura, the Italian word for string maker. So when you said this family has been making strings for a long time, you weren't kidding.
And we were not kidding. I don't
deep.
think there's a string company with even comes close to that heritage. I mean, that's 1680. That goes back a ways. So
can you talk about your perspective of the family, because they're friends of yours, like you said, you're part of that family. Their whole coming over to America and just building this into a world leader as a music manufacturer. What's your elevator history lesson on the company?
I mean, that's the start of it. I mean, they kind of went back in their lineage to trace it to see how far they could go back. And amazingly, I mean, there was a great trail. So yeah, the furthest they got back was 1680, and basically there was I believe it was an earthquake hit that town and pretty much decimated the town, and that's what made people kind of immigrate to the U.S. So that was, I believe it was Charles Daddario was the first one to come over, and that was like early 1900s. I think it was right around like 1900, 1905, somewhere around there. And he ended up in Astoria, Queens, and I think he had a brother with him. And then the brother ended up going back. I think he was homesick or something. And then Charles stayed. And then he just started importing strings from Italy and then selling them to violin makers and repair shops around New York. And then he kind of just traveled by train going city to city and just building, like old school salesman going shop to shop and city to city and just pushing the strings. And that's kind of how it all started. So it wasn't Daddario then. It was called C. Daddario and Sons. And then by 1930 or so, when guitar started getting popular with the big bands, the 30s and stuff, it just started building momentum. But I think they first started making classical strings here, like the mid 1920s.
I read that even a little bit later in 1947, DuPont had started making, the first nylon monofilament, and they were using it for toothbrushes and brooms and things like that.
Right.
But they sent a sample to the Daddario shop, and, from that, you guys all figured out how to make harp strings. And, and then moving on to classical guitar strings from, the thing that gets me about that story is that the company and the family seems to have a great sense of paying attention to trends, cultural trends, what's needed, and then embracing new ideas and new technology, not being, even coming from an old school, family and history and small village in Italy. You guys a really forward-thinking company, to look at a toothbrush with this new thing called nylon from DuPont and figuring out that would be great for guitars.
Well, yeah, because, before then it was all, basically using gut, and it was still all gut strings, and, they sounded great, but they were, it was a natural material, shall we say.
Well, when you say gut, you really mean gut. Some people might not know that. It's from intestines and, animal parts.
Right, animal intestines, and they would dry it out and stretch it out and make strings by twisting it together. They would make strings out of it,
Wow.
and it worked and it was great, but it was inconsistent. It reacted to humidity, so it had some points to it that weren't great for the musician, but it did have a tone and it did work. But then when he saw the monofilament by DuPont, he just said, all right, let's see if this could work as a guitar string, to try to make a synthetic string that was more consistent and more reliable. And that's really how it started. And you're kind of right. Like with each generation of the Daddarios, I mean, innovation is definitely probably one of the biggest factors that always carried from generation to generation. There was always innovation all along the way. Even to this day, it's really one of the biggest driving forces.
I guess that leads me to a question that I was thinking about before we started talking today. Since the music business is continuing to evolve during this time in our history, and also because you have a marketing background, here's my question. Music in the 60s had a clear impact on our culture, of course, with the Beatles and all the other British rock groups, The Invasion, and all the things we were doing here that deeply influenced a generation of young artists to pursue music as a career choice. But the music business has dramatically changed since music streaming surpassed album sales. And it, as you mentioned, it has become really increasingly much more challenging to make a living as a musician. So, how do you, what's your perspective and the company's perspective in staying current and profitable while so many musicians, professional musicians, are struggling to make a living?
Yeah, I mean, that is tough. And of course, we hear that from all of our endorsees, with streaming, no one's making money selling their albums, right? They just have to stay on the road, and it's all in merch and it's all in touring. So in a way, it kind of, when they're touring, of course, they need their strings to perform for people. And that's why, we have to provide them with the, highest quality strings that they can do, that we can make for them. But it is a different world, and it is, I don't know. I really feel for musicians that are doing it for a living these days, because it is a lot tougher. And that's why we have to support the musicians the best that we can and give them the greatest product and give them the most support that we can give them. Mm-hmm. But it's a tough time. I think musicians are still trying to figure it out. I don't think it is figured out yet the way everything's going from streaming. But I guess with vinyl coming back, maybe that'll be a little bit of a savior that people actually have to. You can't stream vinyl, right? So I guess maybe that'll help a little bit, and it's actually good to see that vinyl's coming back again. Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting time, and it's tough for musicians.
Well, is it tough for Daddario? I mean, are you guys? Is it more of a financial struggle because musicians don't have as much expendable income as maybe they used to, or life keeps going? Yeah. You just keep your eye on the ball, just to make great product.
Luckily, we've had many instances where people wanted us to get into actual instruments, making having a guitar line or having a pedal line or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we kind of always avoid that because we really just want to focus on, accessories.
Right.
Because one, a set of guitar strings really isn't that expensive. Of course, we have, premium sets that are more expensive than others, but you could get a really good guitar string set for $5. So luckily, because our good.
Well, I just wanted to say, the more expensive sets, the EXP coated strings, are so worth the extra couple of bucks because they sound great, and I love them. They're my favorite of the different varieties of strings that you make because they last. So you're not changing. They last a long time,
right?
They really do.
With the EXPs, and then we have a electric set, the NYXLs. They last a really long time. They keep their tone for a really long time. So even though they might be 2 or 3 times the expense as our standard string set, you really are getting that value tonally, and then also just how long the string is going to last.
Absolutely. I just wanted to say that because I work my strings hard, and they do not.
But that was kind of our method because strings are, or a set of drumsticks isn't that expensive. A set of drum heads, when a musician can't afford to maybe buy a new guitar or buy a new drum set, they're going to change the strings on the ones that they have, or they're going to change the drum heads. Right. On the drums that they have, and by us providing all different types of strings, maybe they could do something different to that guitar just by experimenting with the strings. So that's really our wheelhouse and our train of thought. That we just want to, we're an accessory company, and we never really looked to get into doing like it be an actual instrument company.
I'm glad that you didn't, because it really allows you to stay focused on your mission statement, and
exactly.
And what you're great at. And, I think sometimes it's really important to stay in your lane and look, with clarity and without limitations as to what you can do with what you're already great at doing. And you guys are a great example of that. Like, you even have invented gear, like for the string winding machines, for making, I'm looking through my notes to see what that was, but the first automated equipment to wind strings.
Yeah. So, one day you definitely, next time you're in New York, you definitely have to come by the factory for a tour. That's the first thing.
I'd love to.
But when you do come for a tour and you look at our factory floor, the one thing that you'll notice is, the amount of string winders is unbelievable. But when you look at the string winders, every one of those string winders was designed and built in-house. So even though the company started out by buying, I think the machines originally were by a company called Vinci. It was a really good design, but I guess they just weren't happy with the quality of the actual machine, even though the design of the machine was great. So slowly they just started kind of like making modifications and, fixing up the machines. And then eventually, instead of telling them the company that was making the machines that we were purchasing our ideas, because they didn't want to give them the ideas, slowly that just morphed into designing and then building our own machines. So now today all our machines are our own design. They're all built in-house. And we're really proud of that. And, Jim Daddario is, I think he was that kid that like took every toy apart that he ever had to see how it worked. And, took apart the family TV or something, or stereo system. And, he was just a tinkerer, I think, from the very beginning. And, his brain power is just unbelievable, and he's really into it, and how he comes up with all these ideas, I really don't know, but it's really amazing to watch and just to see. And our string winders are in a constant evolution. They really never stay still for too long. The second he has another idea or someone comes up with a better way of doing something, we'll build that machine, and then most of the machines that came before it will get retrofitted with that new technology. So they're always morphing. They're always being updated. It's pretty unbelievable.
I can't wait to come to take the tour, and I will definitely take you up on that invite next time I'm in town. Thank you for that.
You have to. And now it's pretty. If you think about this, right now I believe we're at about 700,000 strings a day that we make.
That's insane. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
That's everything combined. That's, guitar, acoustic, violin, upright bass. That's everything together. But, it's an incredible amount of strings being put out every day. And it's glad that there's enough musicians out there to use them all.
So here's a question that I think a lot of listeners are probably very interested in. As I mentioned earlier, I've been exclusively using Daddario strings since the 80s. I think somewhere along the mid-80s is when I developed the relationship with you guys. What's your perspective on artist endorsements and, more importantly, artist relationships? How do you view that? Because, I know sometimes people are just coming up and wanting to see how they can get discounts or free product and things like that. And that's not what artist relationships is about. Can you explain what it's about from your point of view?
Yeah, I think the key word is relationship. You know, it is
Yeah,
a
me too.
relationship. Of course, you get people that just want to get some free strings. But you do have to have a relationship with the artist, and the artist has to give back too, right? So we're sponsoring. We're always happy to give someone strings or help them out. But the artists, we want them to post on, their social feeds. Mention that they use our strings in interviews or in album credits and stuff like that. So it is a relationship. We both should be playing off each other, right, with the artist. And then we have guys one of our most popular endorsees, Joe Satriani.
Mm-hmm.
He's been with us probably about 30, 35 years or so.
Yeah.
We've gotten to the point in our relationship that we work on products together. We came out with a line of guitar straps and guitar picks, and we're working on a couple new projects with him now. And that's the ultimate relationship, when we can actually, then start working with the artist and actually design something together,
Mm-hmm.
But I think artists just have to understand that it is a relationship. You can't be just, I'm getting free strings, thanks.
Well, I think I agree, and I think
it works
it's really
both
cool.
ways, right?
Yeah, the custom series artist straps, with art that's made by some of your endorsees, it's fantastic. It's really cool to see, another side of their creativity, and also to give the opportunity for other players to wear the same strap that they designed for their own concerts and
yeah. I mean, that's the
instruments.
ultimate when you get to do something like that. That's so much fun.
Yeah.
Especially when the artist has a vision of something, and then we could provide that for them, and then not only give the artist what they want for their performance, but then also make that available to somebody else or their fans. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the ultimate.
Well, I remember, just back in the day, you guys, when I had an idea for something for a particular instrument, you'd help. We made some custom sets of strings. When I started playing high string and baritone guitars, electric and acoustic, and you weren't already selling those. You still said, oh, well, this would be the best gauge for this and that, and and it was collaborative, and I always appreciated that. And even saying, how do I get it to be less squeaky in the studio? Well, use this string instead of that string, or so.
Well, you would. There's a lot of people in these walls that know a ton about strings and about product, but we can't claim to know everything, right? So the artist coming to us with, I was in this situation and this is what I needed, or, this didn't happen. I wanted to feel this. I wanted this sound. We love those phone calls, because then it's a challenge for us. Or, maybe it just brings something to the table that we didn't think of before, that, something that we can work with on the artist with, and we love that feedback. So anytime an artist calls up and asks about either a situation they're in and wants to know what they use, those are great phone calls.
I want to get back to asking you a few more personal questions, because I think people are getting a really clear idea of why your company is great, and it's about the product, and it's about the people that make the product, and the intention, and the commitment to quality and giving back. These are, it makes me really proud to be one of the artists that works with you, hearing you really explain some of those things in ways that I didn't really know. So it makes me more of a fan. And so
that's great.
Back to you. Oh yeah. So back to you. What inspires you in music, and also what inspires you in life?
That is a heavy question.
Yeah, we're getting to that part of the show. The heavy questions part.
It is. That is so hard to answer. I think there's so many things that go into it. Sometimes I just want to, work-wise, just kind of come out with something that other musicians are going to think is, perfect, or other musicians are going to really dig and really enjoy. And if I could be a part of making something that helps out another musician make music or make their life easier, that's huge to me. and sometimes inspiration is just can come from anywhere. Like, the other day it was kind of funny. I went upstairs in my house, and my daughter had one of her friends over, and she's 11 now. And it was funny. I just happened to walk by her bedroom. The door was open, and the two of them were sitting on the floor with a turntable, and they were listening to, vinyl, and they were just sitting there and listening to music. And I was like, for someone that young, I was like, that is so cool. And that was like totally inspiring to me, like just to see, like something that I used to do as a kid and sit on the floor and just spin records and listen to them, But, I think just kind of for my own thing and my gig here at work, it's just helping other musicians with the products that we make. And, that's really the inspiration. And, it's awesome when I go see a band play, or I watch a music video or a concert video, and I see one of our products that I was a part of the team that produced that. That's an amazing feeling.
I'm smiling as you're saying all this. It's such a great answer. No,
I was nervous. That was a deep question. I didn't know where I was going to go with that.
Well, I love that your daughter's carrying on, and and having that wonderful experience that we had when we were kids growing up too, of sitting in somebody's room and playing records together, and looking at the album covers and reading the credits. And
I know, remember that? You just listen to the music and you stare at the album cover and you read the credits, right. And
Absolutely.
I loved it as a kid.
We have about 5 minutes left in our conversation, so my closing questions that I ask all of my guests, I'd like to start with right now. And the first is, it's a two-part question. Since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And also, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
Making it. All right. That is great. Well, if I had to go from the very basic sense, it's just keeping food on the table for my family, and a roof over our head. But I think, making it really is really kind of what I talked about before. And it's really, if I can help be part of a team that designed a product that helps another musician out, or even, a product that is going to be helping a musician out 50 years from now still, I'm really proud of that. And that's really cool to me. So, I think that would probably be it. As far as tips, the thing that I would say the most is just do something that you love. Of course, like I said earlier, I would love to be a professional musician and be touring the world playing to huge audiences, but that's not possible for everyone. So just for the fact that I can, be part of the music industry in my day-to-day job, I'm not like doing an office job that, I can't wait to leave at the end of the day. I think that's really important. So just to find something that you're really passionate about, and then, find a way to, I know everyone says it, and then find a way to make a living from it, So even though I may not be making music, I'm helping to make product that helps make the music, So I'm just kind of going a little bit before the evolution of the music and helping with that. And then, not every day is a peach. We all have challenging days.
Yes.
And then you just have to, shrug it off your back when you walk out the door, and then tomorrow's a new day and things are different, right? And then you have a great day the next day. So, I think you get discouraged real easy with everything going on these days. And I kind of just always kind of tend to look at the positive side of things, and things always get better.
When you say everything going on, you're not just talking about at work. Are you talking about the world?
I think everything. With work, work is crazy. So I here I do like most of the product development, like for the accessory parts. And we must have 40 to 50 projects in development right now. So that's pretty chaotic to stay on top of all that. But it's fun. We're not, we're building music products, so you have to take it seriously, but at the end of the day, it's like, you can't take it so seriously. We gotta have to have fun with this, So I always try to keep that in the back of my mind. And then, even with the world, I kind of like hate to put the news on these days, just because, you know, there's never really that many positive things going on. They're always showing the negative. Yeah. So, you know, that's pretty discouraging. So I kind of don't get too wrapped up in the daily news, and I kind of just, you know, make my own world, I guess. Or, you know, just
that sounds healthy.
I don't know how to put it, to be honest with you,
well,
but
I mean,
you know, you can't get too wrapped
out.
up in everything that's going on.
Right. You're just keeping.
I'm
some
not
good,
checking out,
boundaries.
but I'm trying not to get too, you know, emotional about what's going on, because I mean, it'll drive you nuts if you watch the news and you know, really dig into everything that's going on. I mean, my God, it's tough.
It's exhausting. I agree. I absolutely.
That's the perfect word for it. It's exhausting, you know. So you know, you got to focus on your own world and your own happiness, and you know, I think if everyone did that, then everything else might kind of morph a little bit, you know. Exactly.
My closing question is this: at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
That's a good one. I think, you know what, I think what I would tell my younger self would just to be a little more daring. I think I had a tendency to play it safe. Not so safe, but, you know, like, I kind of really wasn't willing to, you know, be going on a van tour, eating peanut butter for 3 weeks and not showering, in order to kind of make it, you know. I wasn't willing to go to the extreme. And I think that's kind of like, if you really want to do something, sometimes that's what it's called for. You know, you really have to put yourself out there and just have a laser vision on what you want to accomplish. And I think that would probably be it for me. It's just to be a little more daring, and, you know, I would have told myself to take a few more chances and saw what happened from it, you know.
That would be great advice for anybody. I think I'm going to incorporate that into my daily practice as well. Be more daring. I think that's great.
Be a little more daring. You know what?
Yeah.
What's the worst that can happen?
Exactly.
Yeah, right? You can always land on your feet and brush yourself off and keep going.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for spending the hour with me. I want to encourage everybody to go to Daddario.com. We are going to post the site and the sites for all of the products that the company makes, and go check it out. I mean, you know, I use your product because I love your product. It's really quite simple, and also I really appreciate my long friendship with you as well. So, and I've been trying for so long to pin you down to be on the show. So thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are.
I know, it's been a while now. I mean, we met at NAMM. I mean, probably 10, 15 years ago. Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again. And everybody, thank you for spending the hour with Rob and I. We really appreciate it. We will see you next week again. Rob Cunningham, Daddario Strings, and Planet Waves. Check him out. Thanks, everybody.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.